So hello guys, today we are continuing our topic on the Blazor Server app refactoring, and I wanted to start this video with the short comparison between Visual Studio and Rider. So what are the two main key differences for me as a developer when using either Visual Studio or Rider? So first of all, let's start from the start time. So let's use this clock app just for brevity, and let's start our project, which we are going to develop using Visual Studio and then using JetBrains Rider to see the difference in the startup. So for now, no either Visual Studio or Rider is started, so it's just a clear test. So, and let's start from the Visual Studio. So starting, and let's count the time from the start to the possibility to see the program CS file and to refactor it. So the refactoring engine should be initialized. So here currently it's not initialized, so it's still in the progress. So waiting a bit. So it has not completely started because here we do not see the green check mark. So waiting. Yeah, here it's initializing, and let's, yeah, so here, yeah, so here it has started, and we see the 45 seconds from the start of the Visual Studio with this project and to the ReSharper engine has been loaded. So I'm using both Visual Studio with ReSharper or the JetBrains Rider. So okay, let's close it, and then let's do the same for the Rider. So 40, at least 46 seconds to be sure, and starting it from the Rider. So here we go. And here we see the program CS, it's loading, it's still analyzing, and yeah, so it has been already started. So here we see just the 21 second against the 46, so more than twice faster as the Visual Studio. So it's the first key difference between these two ones, and the second key difference that still Visual Studio lacks the functionality of the intermediate language viewer or the IO viewer. So there are three levels of viewing this compiled code. So these are IL, low levels sharp, and high levels sharp. So okay, let's look at this at not the program CS, it's not so interesting, but let's look at it just on this small component. So maybe like this one. So it's a small component, and let's navigate to some kind of code. So where this tool is useful for? So the first and probably the most important case, that you are really understanding what your which way does your code compile. So so you are not just writing the code and without understanding what you are writing and for what purpose and how it will be understood by the compiler, but you are getting the clear view on the right side here, how your compiler how the compiler treats your code. So there are, as far as I have mentioned, there are three levels of this code. So first of all, let's go from the high level C#. So in the high level C#, usually it represents mostly your code. So for example, if we go to the program CS, here we see almost no difference between my code and here the code in the high level C#. So, but in the components, so it will be quite different here, because the Blazor markup, which is both HTML bound with these sharp components and methods and so on and values, is treated uh, like a markup which has to be generated just on the .NET side. So it's not the regular HTML from the compiler side. And here we see some parameters as properties, and here we see just the same properties, so like this. So on the high level C#, it doesn't show which way these properties are exactly compiled. So when we go one level less, so to the low level C#, it will generate it will show us the low level code. So, and here for the properties, for example, let's navigate to this one. We see just the property representation, just it is seen by the compiler. So our property, of course, has the backend field, which is just visible from the compiler side, and our property has the property itself, so just as a mechanism of the retrieving and setting uh, the compiler generated backend field value, so which is of course a private one, so just to the OOP concepts. And also if we look at these ones, so we see this regular markup code. So, and if we go just to IL, which is not so informative for the regular .NET developer, you see just the intermediate language output. So this way the C# code is compiled when you are running something like publish or the project build. So the executable or DLL file is compiled just to this code, and after that is treated into bytecode using the just-in-time compiler. So, but the most interesting view for us is the low-level C#. So, and this can bring the great understanding of what we are doing and for which purpose. So, for example, in this component, if you look at here at the using block, so here we see some usings which are not presented in this file. So it's just because we are using the global usings. So global usings as in the project in the C#. So it is the usings file here, which is quite a big one. So even the 40 lines, and here we are using also the imports.razor. So in this component, where we have this in this component, the usings are inserted only by their requirements. So only the required usings are inserted in this file, and all other usings which are referenced as global but not used in this file are not present in the intermediate code in this low-level C# generated by compiler. But here we see some other properties. So if we go, we see our parameter, we see our parameter set, okay, but here we see some other properties which we do not see in this file. So why this does happen? So it's just an interesting thing, and I wanted to tell you about it. So we have the inject attribute, and here we have one property for service, we have the other property for other service, and so on. So for example, here we have 3 of these properties. So this is generated just because we have the imports file, and here we have these services injected. So, and this way you should be careful with this inject directive. So currently I'm also optimizing it for this project, because if you have this imports file in the root folder of your maybe talking about Blazor, it can be pages folder, or when we are talking about the MVC, it can be the views folder, and so on. So, and if you are injecting the several services in your imports file, you have to be aware that these inject directives will be injected just as properties on the compile time to every your component. So, for example, like this one, not this, but yeah, this one. So, and the compiler here, in terms of these injected services, the compiler does not really care whether the component needs this service or not. So this property for the injected service will be generated anyways. So, and let's assume the case when, for example, we have kind of injected service which is used just in 1, 2, 3 components, and you have something like 50 or more pages and components, and you are using this inject directive in here in the imports. You are gonna to generate a lot of garbage code here on the compiler side. So because of your directive and your injection of the service to each of the components and every page which you have in the application. So these inject directives should be treated with care. And also we have one interesting moment about our new record type in the C#. So probably it was in C# 10 or 11. So the record type introduced. But not every developer till now understands the entire concept of this record type. So for example, let's go to kind of detour. And for example, we have the sealed class here. So let's look at the class first, how it's generated, and then let's try to change it to the record. So here we have this class. So here we have just 2 properties, and these properties are treated just exactly as properties. So we have the backend field for each one, and we have the 1 and 2nd property. And here we have of course, we have the parameterless constructor. But if we change this one to the record, and let's rebuild it because this one is regenerated on the build time. Yeah, so currently we have our rebuild succeeded, and let's look at the record. First of all, the record on the low-level C# level is treated just as the same class, but it implements the iQuitable of this type. So it's the first difference. So it's just the class. So it's not kind of so the record is not a kind any of value type, any kind of structure, and so on. So it's just a class. The second and the other difference is that compiler generates some code just specifically to the record instead of class. So it has the equality contract. Here it has the toString implementation just for the record type, and this toString implementation uses the print members method, which will print all of these records members. Also, we have the inequality operation generated for this record. Also, we have the equality operation, get hash code with some default hash seed. Also, we have the equality methods, the clone. Then we have the constructor which takes the same record type as the original and just copy the fields, and we have the empty constructor here. So just making the record instead of class makes the compiler to generate much more code for this type. So, and personally, my consideration about the classes and the records. So, if you have some case like the DTO object, so for example, you are transferring the data from the database part of this data to the front end, and you wanted to have some shorthand in this. So I will change it. Yeah, to class. So, if you have something like maybe like this way. So if you have, for example, the big table in the database, you want to transfer just a part of data to the front end, and you want to have the shorthand of this mechanism. So just the required fields or properties with the default constructor, and here you wanted to use the record, or it can be just the read-only record struct. So you are not, first of all, you are not modifying this data, you do not have any additional methods in terms of this data, and it is just a pure DTO object. So here you are free to use the record type just this way. If you have the just the data model, for example, for the entity framework, which has some properties which should have possibility to be modified. So, for example, get and set, not the init set accessors, and you wanted to have some additional functionality in this model, you should stick just with the class approach. So no records there. No record there would be good for the app performance and the code quality. So just separate these two concepts. So that's it for the theory, and then let's proceed to our task. So our task about the new functionality added. So yeah, so here we have added this control file. So, and currently the data in the database, but we wanted to have this calculation, new calculation functionality, and let's try it in terms of the front end. So let's start with it. First of all, we are going to create the new dialog. So when we're using the Blazor server with the mod Blazor, we can just create the new dialog. So it will be the Blazor component, it will still be component, and let's call it. Maybe we will rename it a bit later. So let's call it calculator. And yeah, just leave it this way currently for now. So we have this calculator, and let's copy. Let's copy it. Let's do it not from scratch, but copy the other dialog. So, for example, manage. Yeah, we'll copy this one and just modify this code. So we have this navigation manager. Maybe it would be useful. So currently we will leave it. So here we have the dialog content container. Yeah, okay, everything's okay. Next, what we have to do? So submit, submit button, but yeah, probably we will currently comment the section out because there probably will not be the block, but. And next, what we are gonna to do? So here, yeah, container. So, and the first one, what we are going to have is the autocomplete for the students group. So let's Yeah, here we have the complete. Let's copy this one. So just here, and what we have? So we have the bind value, we have the type, we have the search function, and we have two string functions, so label and placeholder. And here we will have the collection of the disciplines with the grades field inputs. So next, here we have the cascading parameter of this dialog instance. Next we have the ID. So, and yeah, so the ID will be as a parameter for this functionality, because we should leave the possibility to use this component both for the certain group, and to leave the possibility for user to select any kind of group which he wants. Then we have not the program, so let's do this model as not this one, it will be the yeah, it will be the group model. So it will be the currently, let's leave it as this group model. So, and yeah, so these ones we are gonna not to need. So, and on the parameter set async, we are gonna to retrieve this data, but probably it will not be the group, but the group DTO. So which we will make. So it will be the model, and here let's select, let's leave. So it will be not the select one, but yeah, currently let's let's leave it this way. And then we are gonna do first of all to make this functionality for getting the group and the DTO. So for example, first of all, let's go to the DTOs. So the DTOs file, which contains all our DTOs, and let's make the public sealed record group calc DTO. So, and what will this record have? So let's go to also open the sys group. So here we have the program name, here we have the disciplines, and in terms of this group, so we are gonna to have the department. So the department, so first of all we are gonna to have the name. Next we are gonna to have let's have the department name. Let's have it just as a department. Next we are gonna to have program, and next we are gonna to have the list of the discipline. It will be disciplines. Yeah, but also we will make the DTO of this one, so of discipline. So it will be discipline DTO. Maybe let's make it just discipline calc DTO, and what we're gonna to have there. So there we are gonna to have the discipline name form, not name form and credit. So string name, string form, and int credit. So no groups are needed. So here we have created just two records for this detail functionality. So, and then let's create the service for getting this DTO. So, and also let's think about which get department names. So this is based on the user inputs, and but there will be two separate functions, I think. So let's go to our service. Let's create. So this should be split a bit. So I know that, and let's create the public group calc DTO. So get group calc. Okay. So what we are gonna to have here? So uniSys group. Here we are assuming that we have the ID. So this group it will be not. It will be. First of all, it will be find. Find async. So when this group find async, let's find it by ID. And next, what we are gonna to have is, first of all, I'm gonna to have the await keyword. Let's make it one and async one. Oh no. It's probably the find async let's probably rewrite it then, but it's not. Currently, let's stick with the where approach. So where the group ID will be equal to the ID. Next, select group calc DTO, and what we have here. So here we have the group name. So the group name will be the dot name. Next we have the department. So let's create it as a string of gdepartment.name, and let's also have the department ID here. And next we have the program, so it will be program name. So this one, and after that I'm going to have the list of these disciplines DTO. So disciplines.select, it will be the new discipline calc DTO, and this one will have the name, so it will be d dot subject dot name, next string form, so d dot discipline form dot name, and here we have the d dot credit. So, and of course, if we have the enumerable, we are gonna to cast it to list, or not to array, but to list. And then we have the select, where select, and let it be the first async. So what we have run, this is group where this is group, and this select one moment, select to list, async task. So this group where select the new yeah, of course we have the server. So yeah, it's resolved, and here we also can simplify it a bit this way. So here we have the get group calc DTO, and this is method will be for retrieving our DTO from the database to be presented in this dialog. So let's continue a bit later in the next video, and